Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sacred Emergence. It's Michelle Wong here, and today I have a fabulous guest that I'm so excited to introduce you all to. Stephanie Packer joins us by way of Nova Scotia, Canada, and Stephanie is a spiritual business coach and the founder of Luscious Life Design. Welcome to the show, Steph.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
Yay. Yeah. So, well, even before we hit record, we were talking about business transitions and all of that. Well, before we dive in, we should share how we know each other.
Let's do that. Yeah. And I feel like we have numerous pivots that can happen with this conversation because there's just so much juicy stuff to talk about.
Totally. So for those of you who don't know, I met Steph through, basically Instagram. I stalked her for a while. And Stephanie was the founder of Luscious Life. So Luscious Life is this beautiful community of just entrepreneurs that focuses on wellness. They partner with USANA Health Sciences. And I was just in love with their vibe and their branding. And so I reached out to Steph, wanting to learn more about being part of the team. And so we've known each other probably since maybe 5 years or so. But
I would say, probably 5.
Yeah. And, but we've traveled, stayed in a lot of hotels, going to conferences.
We've been in close quarters numerous times.
Yes. So yeah, it's been such a blast.
It has. And it's just so amazing how something like Instagram, I say this all the time, but Instagram or whatever platform, you can really feel that vibe and it just attracts your ideal people. It's so cool.
Yeah. And which is it's funny because it's less about it's the energy behind it all, right? Like you can say the perfect things, but it's really the connection, like the feel of it, which is, to me, it's more of the spiritual side of business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is where I put most of my intention and focus, to be honest, is, it's funny because I never considered myself a strategize kind of person. There's no formal business trainings under my belt at all. And it really was purely riding on intuition and spirit. And that kind of cool to look back and just be like, yeah, I could have probably done better if I had some strategy. But I think there's a perfect place to have a mix of both strategy and spiritual guidance.
Yeah, let's talk about that because for me, when I started my business, I guess because I'm such a type A, very linear analytical person. I came from corporate. I was all about the strategy, right? And so, but the idea of leading with, energy and spirituality and intuition, I mean, that is such a breath of fresh air. And it's something I still have to how does that work? Because it's always it's a conscious choice if I lead with that. And it's not, for me, it's not an intuitive process. So I'm so curious, what's your process of that? And that requires a lot of trust. So I love it.
It does. It really does require a lot of trust. And I think that's where, I think that's a big lesson for everybody. We can all trust more, right? Times are a little crazy and chaotic right now. That's when you really need to shift from the fear and get more into trust and more into surrender. And I guess looking back on my journey, that's all I really knew because I've always resisted structure and routine and strategy, to a very weird degree of like, nope, 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 nope. Like total wall up against like having anything be structured. And I know that's been a missing link for me. And, being in tune, like intuitively, that's a practice that just came over time. I think that was like my survival mechanism, because it's like, okay, Steph, if you're not going to like buckle down and get strategic, like you got to at least tune inward and like you need a path, right?
I love that. Do you know your human design? I'm so curious.
I'm a projector. But beyond that, I haven't like investigated too much what that means. So I've been meaning to reach out to you and ask, because I did the little test online, and it, just what I read, I was like, oh, that speaks to me. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'm wondering like you're the type of projector, in terms of like the intuitive part of you and all that. We'll talk after.
Yeah. I would be so curious.
Yeah.
Help me out.
That's so cool. So I love that you're like, well, if I don't have structure, then I need to pay attention to my intuition. But I feel like it has kind of worked for you not having the structure. I mean, your business has been successful. It's been like an organic growth, but it's been a steady growth. And now it's like, I feel like it's hit momentum. And so, yeah, structure is like, it's nice to have structure, but I feel like within that, you created your own structure as needed.
It's kind of funny how you say that, because I guess I need to stop saying and affirming like I don't have structure. That it's, take your own medicine, right? Because I say that to my clients. I'm like, don't affirm this. Let's embrace what's the flip side? What's the other perspective? But I find I say that myself. And within that, it has kind of fallen into place to be my own special, weird little structure.
I love it. Steph's own structure.
Steph lives in a bubble.
Oh.
But it's true. Like, it served me really well up to this point where, there is momentum kicking up in my business again. And it is honestly because I've really intentionally I would say the past year, I've gotten more focused on what are my step-by-step processes. Because people are constantly asking me, how did you build your business? And how did you do this? And I lead a lot of trainings, and it's not, for most people, okay to just say, I did it by intuition. That doesn't land with a lot of people. What does that mean? How do I do that? How do I duplicate that? So I've been really intentional the last year, the last 6 months, especially, of like, okay, Steph, break it down. What do you do on a step-by-step process? And that's been giving me a lot of clarity, because I just went right before, I just did it. And it was really hard for me to boil down into action steps. How did I do that? And how did I get that result? So that's been my big challenge. And I feel like I'm really dedicating a lot of effort and energy into that space, because it's not only going to help me with clarity, but then I can pass that, process onto somebody else and help them with their journey.
That's awesome. Well, that's like for you though, you also have like a solid background, right? Around energy medicine and nutrition. So it's not like, I feel like you have so much wisdom, and then how it comes through is, I guess, like your vibe and like the words that you choose. For those of you listening, like follow Stephanie Packer, Stephanie.Packer on Instagram. And if you read her stuff, I'm just like, oh my God, she's so good with words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because I didn't always feel like that was a strong suit for me. But I people tell me all the time, like, that I can break things down into simple, digestible bits. And I didn't think that's how I operated. It's funny, like how we see ourselves and how other people see us is sometimes so totally opposite. So I've been embracing that. So thank you. I do feel like I can explain some things now a lot clearer, because that has been my goal, is to be able to break it down, explain it. Like, how can this be in everyday language?
Mm-hmm. So you started off with holistic nutrition, and then you were leading,
you created Luscious Life Design, which is incredible, and it's still happening and growing today. And then I feel like you're shifting, like you have that piece, but then you're also focusing on like confidence, which is part of business growth in general and mentoring women. But like, yeah, like what's happening in your world?
Yeah, good question. It's true. Like I feel like I've done a lot of shifting and evolving and pivoting the last couple years. I started out in holistic nutrition about 12 years ago, and I really was identifying as the holistic nutritionist for a number of years, and then it just didn't feel like me anymore. And then I kind of branched out and I said, okay, well, I understand nourishment on a physical level. What about an emotional level? And I just became this sponge, and it started opening my world. So first was nutrition and physical, and then it was more emotional and energetic. And I think there's a place for all of that. And just having my hands in numerous pots, I feel like it has created this well-rounded, like holistic business for me that I'm okay that it evolves and adapts and changes. My message has always been somewhat of the same, like optimal living and being a confident woman and all of those things. So now I'm just learning how to mesh them all, and trying not to put myself too much into a box. So before we hit record, it's like, well, what is my title? What do we call me, right? And I feel like a lot of us get so stressed out about what our title is, and it really boxes us in. And I've been trying not to do that. I've been trying to just play with like whatever comes up at the moment. Like definitely spiritual coach. Like I do a lot of business and life coaching on a spiritual aspect, blending strategy and some spiritual principles. And in that is confidence, and in that is nutrition. It's really all the pieces that I have put together on my path that's really made me feel good and made me feel confident and happy and joyful. So kind of a, like I don't know, like a little bit of a tangent there, but that's the answer, is like, it is evolving and I'm okay with that. And shifting is something I think I do quite a bit of. And it's interesting because I feel like I have a lot of the same people in my circle. Like they've been with me since the beginning and they've shifted and adapted with me. So I don't know, like who knows where I'll go next. But it feels really good, and I'm just really embracing it without having too many, titles or being boxed in and all that jazz that a lot of us stress out over.
Yeah, I know, like the title can be stressful, and I totally agree, because it can like limit us, because we feel like, okay, I don't want to steer away, like, or get off track if it's not alignment with the title. But like when I think about business and like personal brands, like it's the person. And so like, even following you on social media and like your stories, I mean, you have really fun stories with your cats, and I mean, it's just like, it's you, it's your life. So it's like the title is like, I guess it's a way to anchor, but I love like you're just saying, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like your brand, like Stephanie Packer, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, who knows what that's going to look like in a month or so, but I feel like if I stay true to my values and I operate out of integrity, that no matter what, I feel aligned. And some months I identify as a little bit different than I did the month before. And that's okay. I'm learning because, I think we've all been in that position where we really stress out and try to box ourselves in and fit a mold. And who is that really serving? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I remember, what was it? As you were talking, I was thinking about, I'm just trying to think about like in terms of like showing up on social media and messaging. Oh, never mind. So the thing I wanted to ask you about is when just you're transitioning into business, because like the freedom lifestyle piece, right? I mean, everybody wants that. And so like, how did that look for you in terms of your transitioning? And And what's like your day-to-day like?
Good question. You know, it's funny. I'm like, you're mentioning my cat as I'm sipping out of my cat mug.
Yay, I love it.
Of course, very on brand. Freedom lifestyle. Yeah, that really, I think that's a really trendy term, and I'm okay with that because we all need our freedom, right? I'm definitely a freedom seeker, and I have been for a very long time. And I think that's part of when I look back, even as a kid, how I resisted the structure and the strategy is I just wanted to feel free. And I'm that person that books a last minute flight to, just wherever, and I don't tell people. Like, I need that sense of openness and freedom. It makes me feel really in tune with myself and my needs. And I think as time has gone on, I've only begun to accept that even more. Like, that's who I am, right? Some people don't agree with it. Some people don't jive with it. But freedom for me, freedom lifestyle really is, again, like embracing who you are, even though it's not perfect, and just doing the things that light you up and not worrying about what everybody else is doing or thinking or saying. I'm very much an advocate for us to blaze our own trail. And I see people that try to fit in for whatever reason, because fear or pressure or whatever. And you can just see it. It's like, where's your spark? Where's your fire? And I guess at the end of the day, I do what I do for my own well-being and for my own happiness, but to also, in a way, give that permission to other women to say, you can do it too, right? Like, maybe you don't want to go and like book a last minute flight to wherever, but like, how can you bring that sense of freedom into your day to day? Down to your routines or whatever, like that, the things that are just making you feel more you and more alive, and like your fire is ablaze. And I think that's super magnetic, and I think that's where I've, now that I'm saying this, I feel like that's probably how I have grown a business the way I have, is because I've always shared that part of me. I think that's the projector part, is just sharing what makes me excited and happy. And it calls in the people that are meant to hear my message.
Oh, I love that. And I love how you reframed freedom lifestyle, because I think like when I hear about freedom lifestyle, I hear like creating, a lot of money, right? And it can be stressful because it's like, oh my God. And then in a way, like the residual income piece, right? Which I love, residual passive income, but like even building that is, it takes time. And so I love that you were saying, what is it that really lights you up, and bringing that into your life more. Because at the end of the day, it's what we want. It's not so much like the end result, it's that we want to enjoy life day to day. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it just breaks my heart to see how many people are not enjoying their life. So I'm like, I feel like it's up to us to kind of do that to the biggest degree that we can, because eventually it's going to, eventually people are going to wake up and say, okay, I can only live, with suppressed energy for so long, or I can only do the mundane for so long. We're seeing a lot of people wake up right now, and it excites me. And it's, a time where people get really, I don't know, like, it's a growth period. And I think that is just something we should always be striving for. Growth is definitely, personal growth is one of my values for sure. Reading all the books and listening to the podcasts and putting myself out there, even when it's scary. And, but I think we're going to see a lot of growth explosion with women, especially over the next couple of years, because it has been, and I feel like it's just going to compound and be 10 times bigger.
So needed too, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the pieces I so admire about you is that like your confidence, right? And how you just show up. And I can like, for example, like even on Instagram, like you just own Cat Lady. Like you're like, I love my cats, and they're adorable. I just love that you take them out for walks. I love it.
I know, I'm insane. And it's like, it's funny because one of the girls that I mentor, she's also a cat lady. But she was like, I don't feel like, she messaged me after I had done like a couple cat stories, and she was just like, you're like giving me that permission to showcase that part of myself, because she's a business owner, and she's like, I feel like I need to do the business things, and that's my identity. And I'm like, yeah, you're a cat mom too. Like, that's your identity as well. So showcase that, because it gives people that personal relation to you. Like, they build trust a lot faster. It's an important aspect, whether it's your cat or whether it's your favorite books or whether, whatever it is, like sharing a little bit more of who you are as a human being, again, is going to attract the people who are meant to be in your circle.
So do you ever feel self-conscious of that, or like being judged, or like it goes back to like, what people think of me and the people pleaser, like, because you have like I've known you for a while, and so like I believe like, Steph is like confident. She doesn't give a shit.
And it's true that I think, okay, I'll share a little story of like, I grew up with my parents being not confident. Like my parents themselves were just not confident people. And I see it in them. And I always saw that. And I was like, oh, like that hurts to see someone that you look up to just being really not owning it, like in any way, right? And so I was really sensitive to that, whether it was my parents or people that I worked with or whatever. And I think that I just made that decision, like going back to the first part we were talking about was trust. I just trusted that if I could just be more of who I truly am, it was going to work out perfectly fine. And I know there are sometimes that I can come off like really like, holy, she does not give a shit. And that's not true, because I do, like, I have a very sensitive side as well. But I also am I'm very what's the word, I guess, cautious of what I pour my energy into, about really caring about, because at the end of the day, again, as long as I'm happy and the people around me are happy, then that really is what matters. And I can't spend a lot of time or energy stressing about what do people think, and am I doing this wrong, or it wasn't, I guess, because I had, that to look up to, of people who constantly question their actions and all of that, I was like, I can't do that. I'm not going to like live this story. Right. And same with the money story, right? Like, that's why I'm a huge advocate for women's empowerment with earning their income, and that financial aspect of residual income, passive income. I think that's absolutely so powerful, and that's like one of the biggest confidence boosters you can give yourself, is to know that you have done something to feel a little more secure in your finances as well. So I think that's where it really stems from. You learn a lot of lessons from your parents of what you don't want to do or how you don't want to behave.
Totally.
And that's what's kind of transpired for me.
I love that. Yeah. And I can say, like, just like, even for myself in my own journey, it's like, because I grew up being a people pleaser and just like all the things where just trying to want people to like me. And then finally, just something, I think it's just through my own growth and do my own thing. It's like, no, none of that really matters. It has to be in alignment for me. And the more I put my authentic self out there, it's like, first it feels amazing and it's very empowering. And then the response I get. And then like the people who don't resonate with that, they just fall away. Like, I don't get any nasty grams or anything,
Yeah. When you can be you in your truest, like most potent form, then there's not really any space for the people that don't belong in your circle, right? Like they just kind of fall to the side. A lot of the times it can be super organic, and it doesn't have to be in like a way that is aggressive or like
an in your face. Yeah.
It can just naturally, like, the energetic decision is, okay, we're just not meant for each other anymore, and that's okay. And I wish them well, but I'm gonna do me, they're gonna do them, and everyone's gonna be happy.
I love it. So what are your like daily spiritual rituals, if you have any?
So meditation's a big one. But I have to say I resisted that for a very long time. I tried and tried to get into meditation. I knew it was going to be good for me, but I just could not. So now I'm happy to say that I am an avid, dedicated meditator. Took a lot of work.
Do you meditate to like certain audios? Do you just sit in silence? What's your mode?
I do both, but I do prefer the guided meditations. To me, that is something that, I don't know, I like to be able to tune into someone. I like to kind of hear that direction and like really tune inward and like, where should I be focusing on my body? And like, but also I do make time for just, you know, a silent meditation as well, but definitely more guided for sure for me. And then, you know, in terms of routine, and just rituals, I guess, like I sage and I smudge my house all the time. I'm really, really sensitive to energy. So I have to make sure that things feel really good. I try my hardest to like not be a clutter bug. So I really try to clear space, because again, I feel like that really contributes to my mindset and just the energy around me. So kind of each morning I'll just like tidy up my desk and whatever needs just a little bit of tweaking so that I can feel a little more calm. And nature walks are huge for me. I'm really fortunate to live where I live in Nova Scotia, because I live with nature and ocean. And so every day, every single day, it's, even if it's 10 minutes, I'm outside just getting some fresh air. Being grounded, feeling rooted is really important to me. I think especially for someone who identifies as like a spirit junkie or a spiritual coach or something, like we can often be so up in the higher chakras, like up in our, you know, with the intuition and the third eye, like way up there. So I find it can be a challenge to feel super grounded sometimes, like, because you're just so up here. So to be able to like make that a practice daily to bring myself down to earth and feel grounded is really important to balance me out. And then little things like tea and, you know, supplements and good food and all that kind of stuff are really important for me.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you mentioned supplements, because a lot of people wouldn't think that as like, I don't know, a spiritual ritual, but it's feeding our soul through our physical level.
Exactly. Oh, I love how you just said that. Yeah, it's true. And that's how I see it, right? It's like, if I'm not optimal in my energy and my vibration and my body, then I feel like I'm really cutting myself short in the work that I can do and the way I can serve. So important, down to a cell level, to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Do you still pull angel cards? And
I do. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, as I have like a stack of like 10 decks right over there. I do. Yes. So that was an every single day thing for me. I since have not been doing it as much. I kind of go in and out of a routine with that. But angel and oracle cards, just not for it to make a definite decision in my day what I'm supposed to do, but just as that general guidance and perspective, like how can I see this differently, or just kind of opening you up to getting out of like a tunnel vision on something. You know, if I feel blocked or if I feel stagnant, I'll pull a card, and it's always right. It always tells me what shift I need to make. So absolutely, I definitely tune into those as well.
Nice. Yeah. I just, you introduced me to angel cards, like, yeah. So it's such a great tool to have. Yeah. So
yeah, it really is. Thanks for reminding me of that. 'Cause that is, it's an important part, you know, like I, for a while, actually for a few years, I was offering it as a service to do card readings. And again, with my pivot right now, it's not my top focus. I do still have regular clients, but I don't advertise it as like a full service right now.
Yeah.
But it's still helpful just for that alternate perspective.
Well, let's talk about if you're open to it, like your pivot and your transition. Like, what are you feeling right now, even if it's still muddy?
Yeah, I'm really feeling like, well, so this is what I'm working on right now, is I'm actually putting together a chakra business course. It's just a mini introduction about how our energy and how our chakras influence different aspects of our business.
Mm.
And I'm having so much fun with that because, again, it's the things that I've always done, but didn't necessarily have a strategy or a step-by-step on how I did it. So that's one of the biggest projects I'm working on right now, and that'll be ready within the next month or so. So that's what I've been working on, is more of the tuning in energetically, but applying strategy with it, because you do need both. I'm coming to realize that to make the biggest bang, lean on trust, lean on intuition, but also have a plan.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm really putting a lot of my focus right now, is how can your energy systems, how are they showing up in your business? How are you maybe blocking yourself? How can you just really tap into and activate at a higher level?
Mm. I have to say, like, the content that you put out, even for like, because I think you did like a side hustle, like angel card reading for side hustles or something, that side hustlers. It's like, it's very intentional, like the content, and like it could be mini, but it's really rich. And I've always appreciate that about you, because it's like, oh, there's just so much thought, and I can like see you just like putting in the thought. Yeah.
Thank you. It's funny, if you saw how I worked, it's like I shot myself in a room. I'm like, oh, I got this idea. Okay. So I light all the candles, and I have endless tea, and I've got like a hot water bottle because I'm a grandma, and I just like, it's so cozy, and I get in this creative cocoon. So I love that you said that, because that's exactly.
Yeah, well, even like, because you gave a presentation on social media and how to like brand yourself on social media. And I remember we were talking, and you're like, oh my God, like I had to like deconstruct how I do things. And it's for you just do it like intuitively. So you're like, my brain hurts just like having to like break it all down.
It does. It's a brain buster for me to do that stuff. But the end project, I always feel so good, because I'm like, okay, now I can put the actions to what I'm doing, and I can explain it. And that's where I really just want to own that and master that. So I've been really intentionally focusing on that so much more.
Yeah. And it's like, it's rich. Like, even like I learned from you, like when we do like mentorship calls, and then, so when you were doing the presentation for like everybody, when you were in Vancouver, it was like, oh, like I'm picking up new content, like new information, and just the way that you were explaining things. So it's like, it's super potent when you are able to deconstruct things.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, for listeners, the chakra and the business course, it's going to be good. I know it.
It's going to be good, and it's a mini course. So who knows, it might expand into like, maybe I'll do like a next tier up or something. But right now I just want to get that information to people. And it is really potent. It's funny that you said that, because when I wrote down, what do I want this to be? I said, I want it to be potent, to the point. There's not a lot of fluff there. It's really like, this is what this looks like. This is how it translates into your business. This is what you do about it. And to boil it stuff down and make things really simple can be challenging. Like, that can take a lot of time to just like, how do I get this down into its purest, form, and cut away all the extra noise and just get straight to the point. So that's what this program is going to be about.
I'm excited to see it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to share that you think will benefit listeners?
I think just like going back to, again, the original thing we were talking about is trust. Like, you do have access to be really in tune with yourself. Like, every one of us does. And some of us can access that a little quicker. But it's a matter of having that be your focus and your intention. And there's nothing wrong with being an analytical person or linear person at all. I just really love when someone can say, oh, I heard my intuition and I acted on it, and it was the greatest decision. It really, like, it took me in a different direction that I would not have seen had I been blocked off to it. So yeah, I think just like allowing yourself to trust in yourself a little bit more, and we're gonna all be a little happier in the end if we do that.
Okay, now I have another question.
I saw your brain. I saw the movement in your eye. I'm like, yep, she's doing something up.
like for like how, like I can imagine maybe some listeners like being like, well, how does one trust? Like what, like how?
Yeah, I had a feeling that was coming. So I think one of the biggest things, okay, so maybe not everybody's into meditation, but that is a really great start because it does silence a lot of the external chatter and it helps you just feel things a little bit differently. One of the exercises that I like to do for myself and that I suggest is like just, well, for one, angel cards as well. That's great. You can just kind of pull that and say, well, what does this mean? What is this telling me? And don't analyze it to death. Just kind of see what your first thoughts are and feelings are that come up. And a great question that I often ask, like I'll have a deck and I'll shuffle and say, what do I need to know right now? And I'll shuffle and then a card often jumps out, flips out of the deck onto the floor. And it's like, okay, that's my message. It really wants me to read it. So that, and if you're not into angel cards, then do something more on a journaling aspect. You can ask that same question, like get quiet. I think quiet is very important, really important, until you've kind of trained yourself, and then you'll start to hear it a little louder and easier and can access the answers easier. But just asking yourself in a quiet setting with maybe a tea and just say, what do I really need right now? And free write, just like take your pen on paper and just allow whatever needs to come up, and don't edit it, don't judge it. And sometimes you need to kind of sit with that and try that a few times. If you're brand new to it, you're going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to say, I don't know, like I feel like I'm forcing this. I feel like I'm forcing answers. But eventually, and it doesn't take long, you just ask, like, what do I need, or what should I be doing, or what is my calling, or whatever the question is, and just have your pad of paper and your pen and just let it come, right? And again, the really important thing is to don't judge it, don't interfere or edit. And sometimes you get into like these little weird trances and you're like, oh my God, did I actually write that? Like, that's crazy. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. But doing more of that type of activity and exercise, it's going to help you feel into like, what does my intuition feel like? Is this intuition? Is this ego? You'll start to really be able to identify. I think those would be kind of the main things.
Yeah, I love that. And I love like just how you described it. It's not going to be like an instant, like, oh, now I trust. It's like, it's a journey. It's a process that just takes practice, because we're not taught to trust, right? It's so, we're in this linear masculine patriarch. Yeah. So I love that, you're just, it might take a few tries. So I appreciate that.
Of course. And I mean, just honoring where you're at and knowing that if you want to be able to hear your intuition a little bit louder and clearer, that it is there for you to access. And you have to want it, really. Sometimes, like some people, they have these special gifts and they can hear it all the time and it's really loud and pronounced. But for a lot of us, because we're just so conditioned, or again, society is very linear, and we're not taught to even listen to ourselves like that. We're not taught to trust ourselves. The fact is, we can rewrite that story, and it takes a little time, but it's there for us.
Awesome. That's a really good point to end on. How can people follow you on social media and websites and all?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at stephanie.packer, and that's probably where I hang out the most. I think most of us do. I also have a Facebook group called Vibrate Higher. So that is just very easy to access. I do have you answer 2 questions. It's just a way for me to really get to know who you are and how I can help you, and then I will approve you if you want to do that. And then also my website is stephaniepacker.com.
Awesome. I will share that in the show notes. And well, thanks for joining us, Steph. It's so fun to always talk to you and sync up.
Thank you so much. I love what you're doing, and these conversations are so needed right now. So you're awesome.
Thank you. All right, everyone, well, follow us. If you resonate with this episode, please share this on Instagram and tag us both at stephanie.packer and at michellewong.xo. And I will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.